The content in this magazine could contain references of topics and difficult subject matter that may be triggering. Please honor yourself, inner knowing, and proceed with whatever help or guidance you feel is intuitively aligned. Welcome to Sovereign Magazine Podcast. I'm Nicole George, CEO and founder of Sovereign. I'm so happy you are here. We are the magazine podcast and community guiding 5 million women to their sovereign selves. From heart-led conversations to magical meditations, our inspiring guests will show you how they can help you step into your sovereign self. Are you ready to listen to your inner voice and step into your power? Then keep listening to hear all of the intuitive messages meant for you today. Hello, today I have the privilege of connecting with Terra Dawn, one of our amazing contributors. She is a life strategist and healing coach who guides women to build aligned, heart-led businesses while doing the deep inner work of healing self-abandonment and reclaiming their worth. It's deeply rooted in her own healing journey and a background in human services. And she approaches all of these soulful business strategies with deep emotional transformation. She's definitely here to remind you that when you trust in life's timing and reconnect with your inner child, it opens the doors to more meaningful relationships, your life's purpose, and a life you truly desire. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you for having me. It's such a privilege.
Uh, I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about your front cover article today. Our theme is Trusting in Life, which is our September new moon issue. And in your article, your path of becoming is lit up. Are you paying attention? You speak so beautifully about how life's timing, often we resist it. And in that resistance, it's actually trying to shape our becoming, but are we paying attention to it? And you talk a lot about surrender and how we don't always choose the path that is being shown to us, but we choose a path that seems maybe more easeful or more aligned with our constructed life. But if we choose to walk the path that's being shown to us, what perhaps are we releasing? Maybe that control of the constructed life and so on and so forth. So, for those who haven't read your article yet, let's maybe give a little recap so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, so when I wrote this article, this is literally a surface story of my life, essentially. And so it could go in 100 different places because that's how my brain operates. I chose a plan based on conditioning, societal conditioning. I chose college, husband, child in that order. That fell apart. Career based on college because that's what we're supposed to do. I did a whole life on what I was supposed to do, what we were conditioned to do, what we were told we were put on this earth as our purpose. And I did that in 3 repeated cycles. And it was in that 3rd cycle that I had to learn to surrender, learn to settle in because I had no control over any of it. And it was all of those things that brought me to that moment that shaped me into the person I am today. And if I would have known better, I would have done differently. And that's why this article is so important to me is I want people to know that they can do something different than what the societal conditioning is creating for us. And, I do a little work into human design too, which helps us decondition those social constructs. And so really at the base of it, if I'm going to say anything, surrender is probably the hardest thing a person can ever do. And it was addictions that came into my life of my partner and my child that allowed me to learn what surrender truly was. And sometimes we have to just literally let Jesus take the wheel and let universe and source show us where we're going. And when we can learn to settle in that surrender, get clear rather than surround ourselves with chaos and noise, because that's our tendency, then we have the opportunity to see what's being shown to us. Most people don't wanna sit clear, they don't wanna sit quiet, they don't wanna sit with themselves, and then they wonder why their life continues in a vicious cycle, and that's actually one of my processes, is this vicious cycle. We get into this vicious cycle, and we don't change anything. When you change one thing, it changes everything.
Yeah. I want to go back to that vicious cycle because the first word that came to my mind when you said that was victimhood and playing small because it's all we know, right? It's the control that we seek to have because it's where we perhaps feel safe. And I really want to tap into this notion of control and ego and things like that so that we can really identify our patterns and the awakening. Like you talk about the word becoming, right? And in that becoming, there was a point at which you realized you were losing parts of your old life. There was a cost you were going to have to pay in order to become, right? Because you decided to no longer play the victim or no longer play it small. So maybe share a little bit about what that looked like.
We often hear women being told, "Well, you just choose really bad men." And that's not necessarily the case. We choose what's familiar. And I had literally chosen every variation of my father in all of my relationships. And it wasn't until things were so bad, like in that last relationship, I'm talking the depth of rock bottom for myself. And there was only a couple key components that kept me earthside. When we talk about things to that degree, we recognize that the patterns are no longer working for us. We recognize we get sick of our own garbage and we really want change. And so my change started with, years ago when I started into doing self-development work, but it was very cranial. It was very head based. It wasn't necessarily super emotion, nervous system based. So when my transformation really started happening is when I started going heart based, when I started going nervous system based, when I started looking to how I felt, that intuition, rather than, well, I know this and I know this and I know this. It's not always about what we know, it's what we feel. And we've masked our feelings for years, right? Our whole life, we've been shut down. And so when it comes to that vicious cycle, it's recognizing the patterns. And so when we can recognize the pattern, we can dig into that pattern and pull out one piece of that pattern, and that's going to make a shift. You work on that for a little while, pull out another piece of that pattern. It's changing what you do. You can't change what other people do, but you can change what you do. And so with my clients, with this vicious cycle process, I actually have them draw out a vicious cycle that is specific to an argument or specific to a cycle that in a relationship or, I have them draw it out and I have them make. And so I actually had one client that had like vicious cycles all over her wall for a while so that she could really identify what her pattern was and start doing something in her pattern to change the cycle because we can't do anything about anybody else. And so when she realized that she hated her relationships, this wasn't working, that wasn't working. She didn't get along with anybody. I'm like, you're at the center of all of that. The saying that I say to my clients is, you're the center of your own shitstorm. Like if you want to understand, and I don't let my clients sit in that victim state. It's so what are we going to do differently? So this is where this vicious cycle process comes in. And it's after like lots of digging work. Like it's not until like module 16 of like my second layer of my program. Like it's deep because we decondition other things first. And so when we look at that, it's the hard work mixed with surrender, I guess, to go back to the theme of the article. It's you've got to still put in the work. You can't just, okay, I surrender and do nothing. You have to identify your patterns. You have to be willing to look at yourself with rigorous honesty. Otherwise, nothing's going to change and you stay in that vicious cycle, which then you're choosing to be a victim. You're choosing victimhood. And I can say that with my own story, I could have chose to stay in victim because I was a victim. I was a victim and I chose something different. I didn't want to be known or feel like I was the victim. I wanted to do something different. And it was that victim mentality that actually got me into all those situations. The I want somebody to take care of me, completely. I wanna be the housewife. I was surrendering to the fact that I was now subject to somebody else's way of being, somebody else's financial well-being, somebody else's, and I had experienced over and over and over again how that didn't work.
Mm. I am so glad you brought this up because this falls in line with our new show that's coming called What the Feminine, and you're going to be on it, and I'm so
I got
excited.
goosebumps.
I know, August 2025. Make sure you join the community so you can watch the recording live. But this is one of the topics that I feel like we don't say it enough that we are the source of our life and the choices we make. That we when you said we don't have control over other people, we only have control over ourselves. 100%. But I think we're so afraid of saying that because people want to say, well, they did that to me, or they want to shift the blame, or they want to shame somebody. But just like you said, you don't have to stay in that situation. Now, I want to recognize there are situations people can't get out of for whatever reason. So we're not going to the most extreme situation right here. We're talking about the most generalized, the job you don't like. Can you find a different one? Maybe a relationship that's more easily to get out of, or just going to therapy and helping your relationship, right? So we're talking about basic level stuff. This is not like super high level toxic relationships or a certain situation you might not be able to get out of. But we don't talk about it because I think people don't want to hear that it comes back to them. I said to actually my father in law last week, I said, your happiness is in your heart, it's in you. Nobody can take it away from you. It's all within you. And he's just looking at me like, what? I'm like, no, Pop, you're looking outside for every other person or every other activity to make you happy. Your happiness lies within you. And he was so mind blown by that and blown away. And so, for the people who are listening, the women who are listening who feel maybe trapped or overwhelmed or playing it small and want to become their truest, authentic self, what is like, when did you decide that you needed to kind of unlearn or do life differently? You mentioned that you kept choosing your father over and over again. I did the same thing with my jobs. I kept choosing bosses that were treating me exactly the same. And then once I realized that I was the problem, then I got out and I changed my whole life. But when was that pivotal moment for you to be like, I've done this 3 times now. Like, my soul contract is this, and I need to fix this. That's what I came here to do.
Mhm. Well, interestingly enough, I started to recognize that I needed to change something after my second marriage. Um, and I had made several changes. They were just not so cemented in that when I met my third partner, I ignored the red flags. And that was, and this is something we do as women as well, because we want to believe in the fairy tale. We want to believe in the dream. We want to believe in it's the statement. I actually had this conversation with a client not that long ago. Well, when it's good, though, it's really good. That's a red flag. If you can't catch yourself saying that about your relationship, a red flag. And because when it's not good, even if it's only 10 or 15%, it's really not good and it'll tear you down. It will ruin you. And I'm saying that because that's what happened for me. It completely ruined me to the degree that I wanted nothing to do with relationship for 2 years after the separation. And we were only in the relationship for 2.5 years. And the post separation was worse than the marriage. So when we look at these things and we look at our we have to be so sure of ourselves in those patterns to stop choosing the thing that was hurting us all the way along. And it takes work. You can't just, okay, well, this person appears different, so I'm going to do different. That's not how it works. This person appeared different too for a little while. And when they show you exactly who they are, believe them the first time. I think that's another piece that I give to my clients is like, no, if they're telling you exactly, that's not That's not a cue to try harder. That's not a cue to see, well, this is the potential I see in them. It's not a cue to, well, we'll wait it out. No, if they're telling you, they're telling you. If they're showing you something that is non-negotiable and undesirable, believe it from the beginning. Because we, for some reason, as women, have been conditioned to believe that if we were chosen by a man, that we just need to, like, just allow ourselves to be chosen. We should be grateful by who we're chosen by. That is so not. That's why our dating scene and our marital standards are the way they are right now, is because we're just sitting in the gratitude of being chosen and not choosing from a space of self-respect and self-worth. We don't have our self-worth and self-respect intact, and we're choosing from that gratitude space.
Yeah,
I
and
hope that
that's
answers your question. I may have squirreled.
I don't even remember what the question was. My ADHD brain already forgot what it was, so don't you
Yeah.
worry. That's just how we roll on that. We just have a conversation and really tap into each other's energy. But I want to go back to that worthiness piece because I have heard before, oh, but if I speak up, or oh, if I express my preferences, I might be considered too much, or conceited. Or I'm like, wait a second. Like, why are you not worthy enough of the life that you desire, worthy enough to receive whatever it is that you prefer? Like, some of my most favorite words are preference, choice, curiosity. Like, why can't we have all of these things in our life, right? We don't have to sit back and surrender and just trust everything will be, fairies and rainbows. But in that process of surrendering, when you said it's a becoming of you, it's a remembering of who we were when we were born. When we were born, we knew how to speak our truth. We cried when we were hungry. We cried when our diaper was wet, and we were not ashamed to act out. So it's definitely a remembering.
And one of the things I heard you say was about the being too much or being conceited. Be all of those things. You are going to filter out the people that aren't meant for you. And I'm talking like friendships, romantic relationships, employment. Easy for me to say I'm self-employed to a degree. That's easy for me to say. But even in this, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not supposed to be. And I think this is the difference between fitting in and belonging. And one of the things I share with my clients is that, so I say I'm not a sorority girl. I'm a girl gang girl, because there's a difference. There's a ferocity and a fire and a feistiness that comes with the girl gang. And it's not about fitting in and molding and conforming like you would in a sorority. And so I make that differentiation. And when you are too much, the people that aren't meant for you just don't show up. Or those are the people that show up in the form of quote unquote haters. We don't really have haters. People just don't like themselves. So when you can step into being exactly who you are and show up as you are from the beginning, you are doing yourself and other people a favor. You're showing them who you are in full authenticity. And if they don't like you, they're not meant for you. And I think this gets conditioned into us, like in kindergarten, where everybody's supposed to get along. No, we're not. Like, that's not how society and humanity should be. We find our own little tribes. And so my biggest words of encouragement is be too much. Be exactly who you are, because the right people will stick with you and the wrong people won't. And that's a level of self-respect that I don't think people are willing to embrace, because they don't wanna be alone. I would rather be alone than feel lonely in a group. And when you can belong to yourself and carry that degree of self-respect, you belong everywhere. Doesn't matter what environment you walk into, as long as you belong to yourself, you will belong everywhere.
I'm
You don't
so
wanna
glad
fit
you
in.
said that because
Yeah.
when you said your little tribe, the word little resonated so much because I have dwindled down who gets to be in my life to the smallest amount of people because I live in my full authenticity. And it's very threatening to a lot of people. They can't handle who I am as a person, right? I'm very kind. I'm very nice. I'm very gentle. But I'm definitely not going to take your BS. And I'm going to call you on it if you're not being who I expect it, how I expect to be treated. I'm really talking about family here. And so I've had to sever some relationships after trying for years because guess what? I can't change them. So I can only choose my own environment and what I will and won't tolerate anymore. And I kept putting up boundaries and putting up boundaries and putting up boundaries. And they kept breaching them. And then finally, guess what? Last straw, no more. And for me, that was super empowering because I chose myself. And I feel so free in that choice of like, I don't have to accept the emotional abuse anymore. And I call it mind effery. I don't know if I can say the F word on here, but the mind effery that they caused me, right? Like just this constant mind thinking. Why is that going on? And why are they saying this? But I'm choosing myself, right? And that's ultimately the best part. So I love that you said little tribe because little tribes are so much better than bigger ones. Like, I don't need to have 10,000 best friends. Like, one is
Well, and
good.
I look at people who have 10,000 best friends, and they are actually super lonely at the root of it. There's a person, that a significant person in my life that pops to mind. He's genuine, he's lovely, he's charming, he's all of these incredible things, but he talks about everybody like they're his best friend, and I'm like, "And you are so lonely." Like, I can see right through it, and your share around that is it resonates. I haven't had a relationship with my dad in 17 years because I chose myself. Not because I don't love him, not because I don't care. I have to not care for the point of because it was so gross. It was so verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, the manipulation. And then, extended family, so cousins, aunts, uncles. I don't wanna sit at those tables because as soon as I get up, I know I'm the topic of conversation. And so when we look at that, and for nothing other more than just to be petty, not because I've actually done anything, and I really had to look at that because I was raised in my community. The community I was raised in had my cousins in my school, and they were my worst bullies. They were like, and so, when a family reunion comes on, I get the question, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "No. Why would I wanna be there? I'm gonna hang out with this group of people who genuinely love this version of me and don't hold me at an old standard, first of all. Second of all, recognize that we're not in high school. It's been 30 plus years. It's one of those things that we're not those people anymore, or we shouldn't be. And unfortunately, some of them still are those people. So this is where that growth, that vicious cycle, they've chosen their vicious cycle. They've chosen, and they may not see it as vicious. That may be a judgment on my part. But when you look at the outside of the stuff that, we hear about their lives, and not that it's any of my business, but it's like they're still where they were. And I'm in a whole 'nother space. And so our little tribe, like I was thinking as you're talking about that, I'm like, our tribe gets so little, it's almost a dot because we have a very few select people we allow in our space. And I have lots of pockets of community, but that's not my tribe. My tribe is the girlfriend that I can text and say, "Hey, life is really rough today. Like, I need an ear." Or my partner, or, like my partner and I have a very private space and we cherish that. And so when we look at that, that's part of my becoming. My becoming started with the deconditioning, started with recognizing what doesn't work for me and what I don't want anymore. And when I work with my clients, I work with them on learning the difference between their inner critic and their intuition. The inner critic is going to put up obstacles and tell you no and breathe fear into your ideas. Your intuition's going to light a path. And we're not always paying attention for the path. So when we can start to listen to that, I talk to them about connecting to that inner child and listening to that little girl within. She's telling you things. And if you're not listening, it comes out in all of your undesirable behaviors.
So let's move into steps to our sovereign self. So we're talking to the woman who wants to trust in life, who wants to become herself, who wants to start paying attention to that intuition, but is still walking on eggshells, is still playing it small. What are some tangible steps she can do today, tomorrow, the next day, and the next week, whatever you want to share, of how she can start becoming and start to claim her own authenticity and deconstruct that conditioning?
It's so funny. I did this process with my ladies in the Sacred Rebellion yesterday. So the Sacred Rebellion is a group for format coaching, and it's small group. And so they come with their pieces from their own individual courses that they're working on, because I have 2 right now, building another one. And then I bring something for as a group process to do that has the same theme, but not in any of my programs. And so yesterday, actually what I did with them is I asked them to take a minute and to close their eyes and to picture their little self between the ages of 5 and 8. And I just gave them some time to do that. And then I asked them, what did their little girl look like? So what does your little girl look like, Nicole?
She has like shoulder length brown hair with really bad teeth because at that age I could barely close my mouth because my teeth were really, really bad. And she's wearing like a little jean jacket and some, jean pants. And she's smiling, but inside she's so sad.
Hmm. So tell me, what is she asking you for?
To just be held and loved.
Mm. So how can you hold yourself and love yourself in a way that's going to give that little girl what she needs?
Literally hugging myself, like putting my arms around myself and hugging myself because the little girl that I'm looking at feels like she's like a fly on the wall that everybody's passing by and just working, going to school. And despite her big emotions, now I know this as an adult, but back then they didn't know that I had ADHD. I was expressing it differently. My brother was diagnosed, but I was not. So I was dismissed because he was the louder one.
Hmm. From
So
one neurospicy sister to the other, I can say that that resonates. I just got really loud.
I got quiet.
Yeah. So this is an exercise that you can do every day. You can get really present with yourself, even if it's at the end of the day. We hear women with their battle cry of, I just need alone time. I just need me time. You're right. You do. And this is an opportunity to take a moment and close your eyes and picture that little girl and ask her what she needs. And so I would just want to leave a couple tips. If you have that same, and you're like, I don't know how to hug myself. Some of the things that I have got, so I have this blanket in my living room and it's called my joy blanket. It's white with all these bright polka dots and it is so soft. It reminds me of my grandbabies. My grandbabies are just full of joy and sunshiny faces. That's why I called it my joy blanket. I will put on a tank top and shorts and wrap myself in that blanket so that I can feel that warmth. Hot baths with salts in it, oils. I'm really all about the texture and feeling that hug. And your little girl may want to dance. She may want to write. She may want to color. She may want to draw. If you are artistically inclined, take a paint class. And so these are some of the things that I actually cover in my initial foundational program called the Return to Innocence, which is really about getting connected to that inner child and moving through the stages of abandonment wounding. And so that little girl was feeling so abandoned, and that's where that sadness came in. And so you get to help her heal through those things and hear her because nobody heard her. It's one of my favorite things to be able to connect people to that inner child and start listening to her. Life has very much shifted in the last year and a half since I really stepped into this work for myself. And it's work that I think everybody should do, not just women.
100%. That's where we're going with What the Feminine, and I can't wait for that to launch.
It's delicious.
I know. So for anybody who wants to connect with Tara, you can go to community.sovereign-magazine.com. All of her details are in the show notes as well to connect with her or in any of her programs. And don't worry, she's coming back for some more. So look forward to that. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been so beautiful to be a part of this community.
Thanks for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another soul-led entrepreneur here to help you step into your sovereign self. Subscribe to our magazine and podcast and join our global community for all the magic. Details to connect with today's guest or join the movement are in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review. It helps us reach our goal of guiding 5 million women to self-sovereignty.